It's never about the money. The money's nice. It's a byproduct of winning.
It helps to be somewhat money motivated, but a desire to win is one of the best things to go look for in a salesperson.
Actually listen to what they're saying, and when it doesn't add up, call it out. And Mark is not twisting my arm right now. They can see me on camera for me to say that.
I'm not doing that. Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. I'm your host, Mark McGraw. Hey friends, welcome back to Building Your Sales Engine. This is Mark McGraw, your host, where we talk about how to go implement Sandler training and Sandler principles inside of your business and all the wonderful success stories that we've heard over the years. Today's episode is with Jordan Eisner. Jordan is a VP of Sales at Compliance Point, all-around great guy. And in this episode, Jordan gives some great insights into some of the tactical tools that he's used to find and close and get business over the years. And like many of the guests that we've had, you know, they're in sales, they get promoted into sales management because they're just good at what they do. And so he shares some of the secrets that he has of implementing Sandler. Be on the lookout for those, and how you build trust and credibility with buyers and prospects and dealing with negative and neutral prospects. Really great stuff that he has to share. Dive into this episode. If you want the show notes and if you want the giveaway, go to buildingyoursalesengine.com/giveaway11 for the handout for Jordan Eisner. And let's dive in. Let's go. Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine, Jordan. We have Jordan Eisner with us today from Compliance Point. Looking forward to spending time with you, sir, and learning about all the wonderful things that you've done over your time and building your career. So welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Likewise, I hope some of it can be useful.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so glad. Why don't you bring everybody up to speed on your background, your history? I'm always interested in how people got into sales.
Sure.
And whether you fell into it or whether it was on purpose and design. So tell us a little bit about it.
A little bit of both. So, when I was in college, right or wrong, it seemed like a lot of the professors didn't look too fondly on sales. So everybody wanted to go into management or accounting or get a degree in economics or something of that degree, be a consultant. And that was sort of my mindset. It had this kind of, I don't know, it just wasn't looked at very favorably. And so I didn't want to necessarily go into sales, even though I love talking with people. People have told me I'm persuasive. Not that that's all it's about. So my first real job, I worked some other jobs, but my first real job out of school in the business setting was a consultant for Compliance Point. And I thought, okay, this is it, and I'm going to just work my way up and be a consultant. And I did that for about 13 or 14 months, I think, before I ended up switching into sales. But I knew probably 7 months, 8 months in, this isn't for me.
The consulting side?
The consulting side.
What was it that you saw about sales that was like, okay, I got to get over on that side of the ship?
Well, there was nothing actually pulling me into sales as much as I just felt that consulting, it was too reactive.
Yeah.
And I wanted...
so you're kind of getting away from something to go, more as much that?
Well, you say, did I fall into it or something called me? It was a combination of both. Compliance Point at the time had one person in sales, and he was the first ever sales hire, and they decided to open up a position for what I don't know what it's referred to as today, but back then a sales development rep, right? SDR, setting appointments, phone calls and emails. And so I was a consultant at the time. They decided to open this position. I had interviewed for some sales positions before becoming a consultant, but it just worked out that I did the consulting thing and I really just shut the door on sales. But they started hiring this position. I knew what the task was. I knew enough about the business at that point. I saw a lot of opportunity and I thought, I kind of want to do that. And I told my manager at the time and he said, no, you don't. Because it was a downward move in a way. And I said, no, I really, really do. I can't believe it, but I do. And I went to, I guess he was like the number 2 at the company at the time. And I said, hey, about that opening, for that SDR position. I think I want to do that.
That's really cool that you're willing to step back and to step back sort of to some degree, it sounds like, in order to go get further. And obviously you're doing great stuff. Your role today is
VP of Sales. Yep.
Yeah. Great.
So here I am. I've been with Compliance Point over 11 years, and 10 of them have been in some sort of sales role or function.
Yeah. So not professionally trained as a sales manager and VP, like you didn't go to school for that. No one does. But I shouldn't say that. People do now more and more. Kennesaw State and other places are really well known for that.
Yeah. No, if they had that track, I went to Georgia College and State University in Milledgeville. If they had that track, I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes early on, but I was hungry. I was, early 20s. I was getting paid $100 every appointment I set. And so, in a sense, the sky's the limit. I was on the phones, emailing constantly. I think my first month, around that time, I think a good month was setting 12, 15 appointments. I set 42 appointments.
No way, really?
In my first month. I was hungry, And
were you hungry for the money, or were you hungry for
success? I've always said to many people in sales, out of sales, under me, above me, that it's never about the money. The money's nice. It's a byproduct of winning. For me, it's about winning. And for me, at Compliance Point, where I've been for over 11, it's really my professional careers at Compliance Point. I've always felt like we're fighting above our weight class. We're a small company, consulting firm, competing against bigger companies a lot of time instances. And that, to me, is so meaningful to be able to show that value in those deals and win that and bring my company to the table and win some of these, huge Fortune accounts or small, mid-sized companies. We work across the board. I'd even say I like working with the mid-sized companies a little bit more, but winning the logos is nice.
Yeah, and when you go hire people, as an example, that's something that that desire to win. By the way, I also find, and I'm curious what you think about this, that it helps to be somewhat money motivated as well. But a desire to win and be the best that you can be, to me, is one of the best things to go look for in a salesperson. Have you seen something along those lines, or? I know you've hired people as well. Any characteristics you found that are like the best characteristics of sellers?
It's going to be a trite answer, but competitive.
Yeah,
certainly. Competitive, money driven. With what we do, because we are a consulting firm, and it's not like a product or a widget. We're selling people, and we're selling expertise. You have to be able to show a little bit too. So, some ability to not just be likable and hungry and competitive, that's good, but also to be able to understand some of the material that we cover, the regulations, the frameworks, and be able to advise somewhat a buyer in that. Not necessarily the ins and outs of the requirements, but the business drivers. And that's getting into some Sandler principles too that made that such a good fit for us when we started working with Sandler.
And maybe, 30 seconds a minute on what is Compliance Point? For folks listening in, what is it that you guys are selling and doing? And then we should talk about some of those Sandler principles or some of those concepts.
Right.
That could be fun.
Yeah. Compliance Point's maybe some people call it a mid-sized consulting firm at this point. We're about 60, 70 employees. We focus on risk management as it pertains to information security, data privacy, and various regulatory compliance regulations and compliance with those. We do assessments, advisory type work. We're really operational experts in helping companies in those specific niche areas reduce risk, increase maturity.
Okay, perfect. And do most of your prospects come to you, or do you find them? Does your team go out and find them?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Actually, I'd say about half the new business we do every year, not necessarily a new customer, but just new services or cross-sell or upsell. So probably 50%, maybe a little less, is selling into existing accounts. But then the other half is, new logos, customers we're acquiring and working with for the first time. And of that combination, it's a good mix between partners. Not a dedicated channel partner type thing, but just organizations we've worked with that we have complementary services over the years. We have a good marketing engine. We really invested big time into digital marketing, especially in the pandemic and coming out of that. Outbounding. And that's gotten harder and harder over the years. But certainly outbounding, and I have a really good team, Sandler trained team at outbounding.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And referrals too. Another thing, they always talk in sales about referrals and asking. And again, it's one of those things with Sandler where I knew that, but then you go through the sessions, you talk about it, you see the benefits, you see how that can scale, and you have to implement methods to check on that. Trust but verify. Tell the team to do it, but how can you put in some sort of verification methods? Not
on the referral side.
On the referral side.
Yeah.
So what we do is we have a sales meeting every week.
Mm-hmm.
And the first sales meeting of every month, they're supposed to bring an account that they're asking for a referral from that month. So maybe not two, some people would say, well, you should be doing it way more than that. Or, every single month, I don't know. But that's proven to be really good. The account executives know that every first Monday meeting, they need to bring an account and they need to say why and what they're going to reach out to them about and how they're going to ask them for a referral and do a different account. And it's really done well for us.
How smart. And you're expecting them to go do it. You're telling them in advance that that's part of the equation. Do you guys use the client squared process at all from Sandler? Is that one of the tools does it ring a bell?
Client squared rings a bell, 3x3x3, right? It's kind of similar type. Well, 3x3x3, right, is knowing within an account, right? And so that's within an account. The client squared, I remember, I actually have it saved on my desktop. Yeah. How we use it and leverage it, I guess the referral is a little bit of that. Yeah. But there are many different ways we can do it, and it's still untapped, I would say, admittedly, for me. Yeah. But sort of. I'll
throw it out just as a tool. The Client Squared tool talks about, like, if you speak with somebody about a referral or an introduction, you can, number one, find out the organic growth where you can get more business from the existing account. Two might be their network. Like, who else do they hang out with? Are there other people over there? 3 is the alumni channel. So who's left the company and gone somewhere else? That's a huge one. Do you see that one?
I should correct myself. I say, see, there's again, right? When I was talking with you earlier about before we started this on Sandler, when our Sandler trainer would talk about something, I'd say, well, I can't quite remember. Do we do that exactly? And then they would start to talk about it. Oh, yeah, we're definitely doing that. And so that exactly there. I mean, my team has done a really good job leveraging LinkedIn Sales Navigator and monitoring those exact things when somebody's switching jobs, when somebody's new to a job, somebody they've worked with previously. And I have a good tenure of my team. I've been with compliance for over 11 years. I think my team averages maybe 5+ years, maybe even more. And when you stay in one place for a long time, that's exactly it, right? Your clients move around. They go to different organizations. And so hopefully you're keeping the client where they were. They go somewhere else. You're establishing a client there. We have account executives that have followed one person, maybe 3 or 4 different companies.
Yeah.
Continue to get into new accounts that way. So we're using the Client Square.
It's got to be one of the best tools. And Jordan, I think it's probably one of the most underutilized ways to go get new business is we call it the referral tree or the alumni network of people that, in your case, who've used you, been happy with you guys, and have gone on to other companies. And that's such an untapped potential. Mm-hmm. Anything you guys are doing, you're using LinkedIn, are there reports you're running to go keep an eye on that? How do you reach out to the people when you see them at the new company? Anything you could share there?
Yeah. Definitely using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. A lot of filters, a lot of way to narrow down lists so it's not, too many at once that it becomes too cumbersome to start working out to. But you look at who's following my company, who's maybe, you can set account lists in there that are your accounts. You can see if they've worked there before. You can get the notifications when they switch jobs or starting new jobs. So that's one way. I talk about our weekly meeting, and at least once a month, I'm asking about the referrals. In terms of following up on that too closely, I don't manage it down to that level. Mm-hmm. It's hey, you should be doing this. You should be bringing these here. We will do occasional sessions where we get in together as a team. Let's say once a quarter, maybe probably more often, maybe once every other month, and we're talking about certain tactics and things.
What's been your philosophy for success in terms of how much you tell people what to do versus giving them, some level of degrees of freedom? And I love the look on your face.
Yeah,
There's a good thought going through your head.
I've learned a lot. I've been a sales manager of more than one person. I various times have managed just one person in the past, but of an entire team since the start of 2021. And definitely came in with this way.
Is that right?
Or the highway type mentality. I'd had a lot of success as an individual rep, and I felt that a lot of the team around me hadn't, right or wrong. That's how I felt. And I came in and I said, this is how we're going to start doing things. And I think anytime somebody else takes over as a manager, there's a process of turnover and people start to leave. Yeah. But I also wanted them to know at the same time that it's not a my way or highway type thing, but here's our philosophies and here's some things that have had success and here's how I'm going to manage things and here are numbers and metrics and things I'm going to look at. But I will bend over backwards for you to win these deals. And I'm going to be doing the same stuff myself. I'm going to practice what I preach. I still prospect. I still work with a lot of customers that I gained over the years. I've given a lot of them to my accounts, of course, but I still like to stay fresh and involved. I don't take any inbound marketing. That's all for the team. I don't want them to feel like they're having to share that with me, but I'm still working deals to stay into it, and I still want them to see me traveling, hitting the road, prospecting, all those sort of things, and I'm part of it, but that I want to help them have tons of success in their role too. And that takes a little time to trust and learn that. But then at the same time, the longer I've managed, I've eased off of the my way, and this is how we're going to do it. And really, can I establish fundamentals of what I wanted to accomplish, but maybe in their style, their rhythm, and to their strength and their skill set. And so that means having to accept that they're going to do things sometimes a little different than you are and not necessarily manage always to your expectations and how you would do it. So change that a little bit. And knowing their strengths and weaknesses, knowing their disc profile. There's another, right? Sandler. We did that exercise and it was like a light bulb going off in my head. And understanding that about reps and being able to then communicating the why you ask certain things of them and how you want to do it and how to communicate that and show them why it's beneficial in their own style and language has been huge too.
Yeah. I think you're bringing up a really good point, and that is that the rep has to figure out how they're going to use the tools for their own personality and their own style. And, you can't replicate somebody else. You can only be you. But that said, there are principles that stand the test of time that everybody should be applying no matter what. But how you apply them could be dependent upon your own personality and who you're in front of and the like. Sounds like that's been a part of the formula for success for you, is to not dictate, hey, say it this exact way, but give people the freedom to make choices and integrate it into their own body, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. You put it way better than me.
No, I don't know.
No, that's it. I have 3 young children. I liken it a little bit to parenting. My team will cringe if they hear me say that on this podcast.
It is a lot like it, but yeah.
You learn, and you pick your battles and you choose and you learn that you have to motivate and inspire, not just because I said to, but because of the benefits of doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I think managing a sales team and parenting, by the way, managing in general and parenting, there's a lot of overlap there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of overlap. And I'll go here quick. Sometimes we'll coach and say, okay, as a sales manager, there's maybe 4 roles that you have. You can supervise, you can mentor, you can train, or you can coach. And so at any given time, your salesperson may need one of those 4 modes, so to speak. By the way, I find it's the same with kids. There's a certain time where they really need supervision. There's a certain time when they need training. There's a certain time when they need. It's one of the things I love about Sandler is how applicable it is outside of just.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you seen any cool spots on that front?
I like asking why.
Yeah.
And I know that Sandler doesn't specifically state that, but that's the whole idea. when somebody comes to you or when you have a conversation with somebody or they want to do something, they're interested in your services. Why?
Yeah.
Why do this?
Yeah.
And doing that in my personal life with friends when they're going through things and they're talking about what they want to accomplish or what they want to do. Why? What's driving this with my parents, with my kids, with my spouse, you name it. The why behind things. You can frustrate people with that sometimes. You really can, but you're just trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it is true. You can frustrate, if all you do is ask questions, people take reversing, as what we call it in Sandler. They take it too far where they just ask questions and it becomes, it looks like a rookie. It looks like somebody's trying to do something.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But reversing on that point, we were talking earlier about some of my favorite Sandler techniques. Definitely that one, reversing. I think it's a record scratch for a lot of prospects when they just expect you. And something I say to my team a lot is, when they say jump, don't ask how high. Ask why.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
great.
And why do you ask that? Why is that so important to you? Or we'll have somebody come to say, well, we did it with this company and it was great, and they did a really good job and it was a good price, but we want to look elsewhere. Why?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. Be human in your calls. Don't just be thinking, what am I going to say next? How am I going to pitch this person? I'm going to say, actually listen to what they're saying. And when it doesn't add up, call it out.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to call it out.
Yes.
I think the best reps are not they're not shy at all at trying to get to truth. And that's really what's happening there. And reversing is such a great truth serum to go use. So that's a favorite tool of yours.
Yes.
What are some others?
I'll say a lot of times, okay, I like to reiterate back to them what they've said. Somebody told me this stat one time. I don't know if it's true or not, but you cling on to certain things even before you're in sales or just in life. And two big things that have always stuck out to me. I think it was my 9th grade English teacher. She said, so I'm in 9th grade. I'm 14 years old, I think. Yeah. And this is a time in life when you want to be liked. You're in high school, you want to be popular. She said, if you really want to be liked, I don't know what she was even talking about, why she was telling our classes, but if you really want to be liked, ask people about themselves. And that has stuck with me since I was 14. And it's not even a tactic anymore. Maybe it was for a few days then or weeks, but it absolutely became habit. And I'm just genuinely interested in people, getting to know them, who they are, where they come from, why they got in the position they're in, what they do in their personal life. And it's genuine.
And here's the word I hear, and that's curiosity.
Yes.
Just a pure and really intentionally curious. It's not like you're sometimes even when sometimes when people learn about reversing, which is asking questions to questions, they'll be like, well, isn't that person going to see that that's a tactic that I'm using to try to uncover information? And my answer is always, if your heart and your intentions are to understand the other person and you're genuine in that, it never comes across as I'm trying to use some sales manipulative tactic. So
I agree.
Strangely
100%.
enough, it's something about sort of your intent makes a difference in terms of how it's perceived in a big way.
I agree. I talked about the sales, kind of looking down on salespeople when I was in college. It wasn't that direct, but it certainly wasn't built up as a great profession, which is so funny because so many people are in sales. I mean, really.
But it's
colleges
true.
should talk about it a lot more. And everybody sells.
Yeah.
Whether
Everybody
they want
sells.
to or not. I know people hear that all the time, but it's absolutely the reality. So when I was making my way in sales, I always really prided myself on how can I bring value to this situation? Well before Sandler. And Sandler is very keen on that. But how can I bring value to this situation? How can my role in this be more than just, here's the price, here's the proposal, yes or no, are you going to sign? How can I actually bring value? How can I help advise what they're doing? Part of that is being honest with them when your solution's not a fit. And that's classic Sandler. And curiosity plays into that. when they're describing their problem, what it is, you have to dig into the root of it, the why, the pain, and you have to be curious and ask those questions and understand it like you're part of their business.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can start to solution with your services or others. And I always wanted to be authentic, high integrity salesperson. If it's not us, maybe it's somebody I know, or maybe it's something in the marketplace I know that I can advise them on, and they'll come back around someday. And it's not always about them coming back around, but more times than not, you're building trust.
Yeah, I'd argue that almost every time that you say no to somebody that you can't help them for whatever reasons and that you should talk to somebody else, they go out of their way to come back to do business with you in some way, shape, or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every time it seems like that ends up being the result.
I agree.
While that may not be the original intent, it almost always comes back around that way.
I would put in emails and things with my team at the end of presentations, #long game, play the long game.
Love it.
Right? Every conversation you have does not have to be a win. In fact, statistically speaking, majority of them aren't going to be wins initially. Play the long game. Listen, hear what the problem is. If you can solution for it now, great. If you can't, be honest with them. They will come back around. They'll go to another company.
And
you have to be patient.
To bring value. I love that, and it's so true. And it helps us build business without a doubt, and the long-term approach.
Mm-hmm. No stone unturned. I tell them all the time too. When you get in about, you get a conversation, keep up with them, nurture it. Whether you're emailing them every 3 months, calling them every 6 months. It's a year at a time. It's when you're traveling to their city, you're looking them up and saying, "Hey, I'm a B. Do you want to get coffee?" But nurture the accounts. Build a network.
Yeah.
People think of networking. When I first started and going to networking events, I was just thinking about how am I going to introduce who we are and what we do and if there's a fit here. And I hated networking. I hated going to all the certain things because I got to bring back leads. I got to have this. And when I finally just dropped that, I'd had enough success that I started to feel confident that I didn't need to. I just started going to networking and genuinely tried to connect with people, understand who they are, why they were there. If something came up, great. If it didn't, no big deal. You just need to get to know people and build relationships. And if you're truly listening to them and curious about them and seeing how you can help them, whether it's your company, another company, or just something in your personal life, the conversations flow so much better. The relationship is built that much quicker. And you network.
Yeah, and there's sometimes, Jordan, I've had this situation to your point that comes up that I've said to reps, look, if you need to have an attitude when you're out and about in the marketplace, networking and such, that you're going to have that job for the rest of your life. You're not. You're going to do other things and all this stuff. But if you take that approach and that attitude, that plays to the long game, and you do build relationships, you don't burn bridges, you're assertive enough to try to get the business, but not so aggressive that you turn people off. Because that, if you take that attitude that I'm going to be in this business, in this industry for forever, it's such a good approach or a mindset to take for a rep to play that long game. And you end up getting more business as a result of it.
And I think that's part of what happened too. My tenure at Compliance Point grew. It became more and more of a home, and I knew I was going to be there for what's now my 11th year, or I'm in my 12th year, I guess. And you just get a little bit more comfortable. You don't need every deal.
Yeah.
You don't
Sandler
need
rule, I'm
everybody.
financially independent. I don't need the business.
That's right. Being able to say no, to be able to walk away, prioritize those deals. It becomes a huge strength.
Yeah. Again, it's the intention to serve, intention to help. At the same time, get the business if it makes sense. I think that's an important ingredient to, I'm financially independent. I don't need the business. I'd like to have it if it makes sense.
Yes.
I think that gets unsaid, and but that's part of it.
I'll finish the point on reversing, but that's where it doesn't need to be about the money. I want to be money driven to a degree, but I don't need it. It's about winning, success, bringing value,
Serving.
and the money's a nice byproduct.
Yeah.
The other thing I always remember, I talked about ninth grade and being interested in people because we were talking about curiosity and even reversing how that's interplayed. Somebody told me one time, waiters and waitresses that repeat back the order are tipped, 260% higher, or some sort of degree. I think it was a German study or something. I don't know. Maybe it's all made up. But it makes sense to me. I've been to plenty of restaurants, and I'm sure you have too. There's an added confidence when what you're ordered is repeated back. That sounds so simple and trivial, but I practice that a lot. I know that's not reversing, but my point is to try and approach a reversing where it seems genuine, where it doesn't seem like this is just a tactic this salesperson is using. I'll listen intently. I'm curious. I'm interested. And I'll say, okay, let me play this back for you, what I'm hearing. You're in this situation. X, Y, and Z have happened. You need A, B, C to occur. You've looked at this and that and here. If I'm in your shoes, I don't know that it really makes sense to do anything. Yeah. Or something to that degree, right? Repeat back to them, put myself in their shoes, try and empathize and relate with them, then start with the reversing questions. Why do anything? Why not use the company you used before?
And if they're not going to do anything, they're going to tell you. And if they are wanting to make a change, they can't help but just leap out and tell you why they want to buy from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they start to want it a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, I'm always careful to say this because I never want to come across as, disingenuous. I don't do these things to make them want to do it a little bit more, but I'm always pleasantly surprised when they do because of these things.
Yeah, you've mastered, Jordan, the Sandler rule is people love to buy but hate to be sold. And so what you're doing with that is you're getting them to sell you on why they want to buy from you, as opposed to you convincing the buyer of all the reasons. You're getting it to switch. You're getting them to sell you on why they want to work with you. To me, that's the essence of Sandler. Mm-hmm. But you have to have that attitude that you're willing to lose. I hate to say lose. It's not really the right word, but you're willing to walk away from a deal by asking a question that reaches a truth that may not serve you. They might say to you, look, you're right. I should stay where I am. And that, a salesperson's like, well, I've just failed because they're not going to move. But the reality is that you've gotten them to convince you if it is appropriate. You've qualified the deal better. So.
Yep. And I'll make a nice plug for Sandler here and Sandler training, at least for compliance point. We are a consulting firm. We are people. We're providing expertise and experience. So our services are very malleable to needs and pains. And so identifying the true pain and drivers allows us to adapt and pivot how we propose our services and our approach beautifully. And so we provide data privacy consulting services. And we've had organizations come inbound who I know that their entire legal staff is probably bigger than our company. And they come in and they have questions and they're trying to operate and solve a problem this way. And I go, look, you have more attorneys than we have employees. Well, why would you really consider us for this? And then they start to talk about what the real pain is because a lot of buyers are bad buyers too. They just expect the typical old buyer-seller process, and they get in and, hey, we're so-and-so with this big company. Give us your pitch. Tell us what you do. And we're going to hope that somewhere in all the time that you're speaking, there's something we can pick out in there. No, you got to break that. Why are you coming? What's the pain? What are you actually doing? And then I'll tell you if what we do can fit that. And so then they start to explain, well, it's not, all our attorneys are experts in this. And we don't really have anybody that knows how to operationalize and do this. Okay, guess what I'm going to talk about?
Yeah.
How we can operationalize it.
Yeah, it's such the right way to do it, as opposed to, I've kind of equated it to, Jordan, if you had a feature for every letter in the alphabet, A through Z, in order to see whether or not the buyer wants to buy, you would start at A and tell them about A, and then B, and then C. But right around C and D, their eyes roll in the back of their head and they stop listening, and you don't get to the real thing that they want to buy, which might be letter S, just to use the metaphor. If you flip it around and say, hey, what letter do you like? And get them to tell you what they want to buy,
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple to say it out loud and even hear myself say it. But the reality is so few people do that you really stand out by using Sandler and using that approach.
And buyers aren't comfortable with it either. They're not. They want the old dog and pony show. They don't want to disclose. They don't want to give information.
They certainly expect it.
Yeah. And so, and you have to build a skill set as a salesperson for how you overcome that. And everybody has different methods. And it depends on your personality, a certain type, but you have to tap into that. One I've been using a lot lately that I love to do is, there's a battle at the beginning for who's going to control the call. A lot of times, maybe you've got another, disc profile D on the call or DI or something of that nature, and they're trying to run it. And so you do this and that, and you tell us about this, and they're trying to throw you into the buyer's journey. And I'll just say, hey, that's fine. Appreciate all this. Here's my agenda items, or here's how I want the call, upfront contract. But I'm more than happy to tell you everything Compliance Point does. I love talking about Compliance Point. I've been here forever. There's nothing I like more than that. But I don't want to just talk this whole time on the call about what we are and what we do and all that. I want to hear why you're reaching out to us, what pain you might have, so we can home in on exactly where we can or can't be of service to you. And that seems to, set them back, go, okay, this guy cares. He don't want to just talk about why they have the best widget or the best service of this in this industry. He wants to really know what we're doing. Sometimes you got to do it a couple more times on the call. You definitely get your hard-headed once, but I've come to find out that when you're talking to somebody that really wants to accomplish something, and they're a really serious buyer, and you're talking about qualification, they should be more than happy to share that stuff. And if they're not, then and you know how to prioritize the call. You know how to act on it.
Yeah, and Josh and I say, good prospects play their lines. And I think to your point, the people that are the best prospects for our businesses, they say they're consistent. They're willing to open up. They're willing to share. We just have to give them the airtime to go do it. And the tools that you're bringing up are the tools and the ways to go do it to get people to open up and tell us truth.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's what we're after one way or the other. And I don't know, to me, it's the best way to sell. If you said, look, to me at least, Jordan, if you said to me, look, you can only sell by convincing and persuading other people and telling them things, I'm like, I'm going to go do something else.
Absolutely.
It's not in my nature any longer.
Absolutely. Who wants it?
Who wants it?
I had done a lot of these things, I think, naturally. Like you said, when I first got into sales, what I didn't share early is I had those great first appointments, right? I took 42 appointments, and I had a lot of early success, enough that, things just so happened that I became the only salesperson, basically a couple months after I'd done that. And I had no sales experience. The person I mentioned before that was Compliance Point salesperson, he was no longer in the picture, and it was just me. And I had no formal sales training. I had some success setting appointments. I had spent some time as a consultant, but I just went out there. I just cut my teeth. I stuck my neck out there. I failed a ton and learned how to do things a certain way. I was just flying on my own. Now, the company paid for me to do some sales training. It wasn't Sandler training at the time. It was a different training group, and that helped a lot, and some similar fundamentals. But I learned a lot that way. And I had success. I did as an individual rep well before I was introduced to Sandler. And I had started training a team, and I wanted to invest in some sales training. And we had always done just one-day training sessions, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I was never a great student. I can't sit still for that long. I just don't do well in a classroom setting. I still don't to this day. And for a long time, I just thought, I equated that to intelligence, academic success in that sort of way, but people learn different ways. Yeah. And when I start talking to Josh about Sandler, I think it was 3 times more than we had spent on sales training previously. And he Sandlered me, I'm sure. But we started talking about a lot of stuff, and he was talking about the importance of consistency and learning. So I'm going into why we eventually did Sandler, and there's I can be on the other side of it now, and we've done Sandler for 3 years, and it's been huge for my team, and I've completely adopted it. But this isn't a big pitch for that. I remember I'd had all this success individually. The team was having success. That was probably where you're going, but I wanted to try something new. And I remember the first session, buyer versus seller journey. And here I am thinking I'm an accomplished salesperson, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this for years. For years, I've been doing this. And it was just like the light bulb went off. And it was just a great experience. And I've adopted things through Sandler that I will never not do. Yeah. I'll always do forever because of the light bulb moment and all the tactics. And you can go like anything else in life. You can go so deep into it, but those core principles from it's called Essentials now, but when I did it was called Foundations. Just the return on that investment is incredible for me individually, for my team, for our business.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah. And Mark is not twisting my arm right now. They can see me on camera for me to say that.
I am not doing that. And I wouldn't do that. And I appreciate the story, and I appreciate what you're bringing up with it, because it's what we love to hear. And a little bit of what I hear in there, Jordan, is that our ability to turn things that you were doing naturally, that you knew that worked, and put them in a framework or put them into a concept, a model that other people can learn, it makes a sales system transferable.
Yep.
And it sometimes, for our clients, it's like they're like, well, I knew that, but now I have a framework by which I can do it more consistently and do it with more intensity.
System. Have you ever heard of the book The Goal?
Yes, I love it.
Do.
Goldratt, absolutely.
Yeah. One of my reps, actually, the rep that introduced me to Sandler, he said, hey, my former company did the Sandler training. You should check them out. Big sales book reader. That also taps into something else that with my team, I wanted them all to feel like I am willing to listen and learn from them and things they're doing, and would consider it. And I want them to feel comfortable bringing ideas and things to me. Going to do some of them, not going to do some. But Sandler was one of those things. And it's worked so great for the whole team. And I think the team feels comfortable coming to me and bringing up these ideas, and they feel heard, and that's important. And I don't know everything.
And they were bringing up the goal?
We're doing some things this year. We try and be creative with different initiatives. So one is we've picked 6 sales books. There's 6 sales team members. And every other month, everybody has a book that they have to read. And they're going to give a presentation to the rest of the team on that book, right? A synopsis, key takeaways, sales tactics, that sort of thing that you can take from that book. So not everybody's going to read every book. We're going to get the Cliff Notes version presentation from each. So I had them all send me some of their favorite sales books they've ever read. We put together a big list. We narrowed it down to 6. And then I did like a randomized draft order, and you could pick your book and your date you wanted to do it. And so I landed on The Goal.
Which is not a sales book.
No. It's a process, management book. But I've really enjoyed reading them on the last chapter. I was reading on the flight home. I was in Dallas earlier this week, and I was like, I want to save this last chapter for when I'm, alone at home, no distractions. I want to be totally into it. So I got 1 chapter left, and it's a great book. But when you were talking about it's not a sales book, I think about that. And if you remember the book very well, you remember the bottlenecks, right? When I was learning Sandler, now I know this on this side of it, at the time, there were so many bottlenecks in my sales process because I was falling into the buyer's process, and I was doing things, and I was not establishing next steps out of a call. And I wasn't getting those qualifying questions, call it BANT, call it whatever you will. Why do this? And so then you're just left with uncertainty, and you wrap up a call and you send a proposal and you're just chasing them down. And what a time waste. What a bottleneck to my process. How about I just ask the hard questions that might be a little bit uncomfortable, that aren't, by the way, but maybe
once you do them a few times.
Exactly. Once you get the conviction about them, they're so natural and they just make the most sense. It's all about getting the truth. You eliminate, it's not about eliminating the bottlenecks, but working around them, right? And creating efficiencies.
And it is such a good book in the sense that it teaches, especially sales manager, it teaches to look at the sales process and say, where is in the book they call it the Herbie, I won't go into the explanation of it, but it's the bottleneck or the constraint. So if you don't have enough leads, you want to work on more leads. If you're getting leads in but not closing, you want to work on closing skills, and it opens it up. So therefore, you produce more, and then it creates another bottleneck somewhere in the system, and you go work on that.
Right.
It's such a good, again, it's not a quote sales book, but you certainly can read the book and apply it to sales 100%.
Yep.
It's such a good book.
Constant process improvement, right? And so here I was, had some sales training, cut my teeth on a lot of things, and then I learned Sandler. Really, I think refined some process and systems and steps, and we absolutely adopted the methodology as a team. Now I'm finishing this book, and I'm thinking I got to revisit all of it.
Yeah,
and reverse engineer it and see where are the bottlenecks and how we're doing it. So I'm really excited to do that once I finish and start to examine the process and look at metrics differently. And that's a lot of the book too, thinking outside the box. Everything they do inside that plant that the main character Alex, right, runs is by the book, by corporate, what they say. This is how it's always been done. This is how they do the accounting, and they think outside the box on that stuff and just blow it out of the water in terms of success they have compared to the other plants.
And the Sandler phrase, break the rules and close more sales. That's been a big piece for ours over the years.
And it's a fiction book. Yeah, that maybe doesn't, help. But yeah, when you know a little bit more about the author, I had no idea going into it. And I'm like, this is going to be, I don't know how this is going to be, but that's the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
It's a great book. Well, hey, enjoyed the conversation with you a ton. Lots of good on my side. I'm just looking over my notes. We've talked about a ton of cool stuff, looking for alumni in business, people that have left us. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to go find people that have left the company, left your customer's company and gone other place. You guys are sharing best practices. You built a great culture. You're sharing information and best practices back and forth amongst the team. Lots of cool stuff inside of there. And I love the conversation about getting the buyer to convince you as to why they want to buy rather than the other way around. That's such a big component to it for sure. So appreciate you coming on the show, and thanks for sharing your wisdom.
I was excited to be here. Thank you, Mark.
Indeed. Well, look forward to catching up. After you're done implementing the good stuff with the goal, we'll have you back on. You can talk to us about how you've put metrics and things in place to go manage the pipeline. I'd love to hear
what bottlenecks I found.
That's exactly.
All right.
Well, be well. And again, we'll have you back again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks. So, hey, I hope you've gotten a ton of value out of this episode. By far, it's our purpose to help people make money and have fun and have a good time. We're here to help improve your life, to help you make it easier to go sell or to manage your sales team, and ultimately to go build your own sales engine. Don't miss an episode. Best way to go do that is to make sure that you jump out to buildingyoursalesengine.com/follow, where you can link up to all of our latest episodes. For more information about this episode, go to buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can download show notes, transcripts, and other information, including handouts and snapshots of this and other episodes. If you'd like to connect with us to talk about how we can help you build your sales engine, and you are either located in the state of Georgia or are referred to us by one of our clients or affiliated by one of our clients, please reach out to us at buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can click there to book some time with us. We can find out how we can be of help with one another. If you're not in either of those two circumstances, please reach out to Sandler.com, where you can find a Sandler office near you. Be well.